So I would add that one maybe piece of advice that we don't always necessarily do as good a job of following as I think we should either. Sales can be a really, really frustrating job. There's a bunch of highs and there's a bunch of lows, and they come pretty rapidly. You can be on top of the world one day and on the bottom of the world the next, and so you got to kind of make sure you manage expectations for new people who are getting into sales. So what I would recommend is it's really easy to measure gross margin dollars, and it's really easy to measure some traditional sales statistics. What I would recommend is you know exactly what activities you want your new salespeople to be doing, and whatever those are and whatever they look like to you, you have a pretty good idea what they are. Deliver those expectations and measure them, because those are things that you can control and they can control. They can't control how much a customer buys this month or next month, but they can control their activity. And my belief is that results lead to, and behaviors lead to results. So if you manage those activities and those behaviors, it makes for more meaningful dialogue with the individual, and you can correct things much easier that way.
I'll add to that. I mean, just because I did train trainees for about 10 years, and I built the training program that we created. And at one point when I started that training program, we were 15 months into a program. That's how long the program was 15 months. In that process, they worked in the warehouse in every single department. They went through every sales department. They went through credit. They went through purchasing. They went through quality control. They went through internal audit. And they began to understand the entire basis of our business, because we run our business like a public company. We just do. We're subject to a lot of different things. So I wanted them to have all that exposure. In addition to that, outside of product and manufacturer training, they also had to learn how to negotiate. We sat down and read a book about negotiation. They had to write a book report and report to me how they would negotiate a job, how they would negotiate a deal. We also taught them communication. I mean, how do you talk to a customer? How do you ask for the order 7 times and not feel bad about it? We walked them through that process as well. And then when I was hiring people and interviewing, I told them it may be 7 years before you get to an outside sales position. 70% of the time, that candidate never came back. The 30% that did followed that process, and then we went through that. Today, I'll tell you right now, with the millennials sitting in the room today, you're not going to accept that. And your generation is asking for that a whole lot quicker. So we have to change the way we do business, again, change, and try to adjust what we're doing. Our program's dropped down to 7 months now. They're probably in a sales role within 30 days after they've graduated, and whether they'll stay 2 years on a counter is yet to be told. But at this point in time, we've got to figure out a way to meet your millennial needs a lot faster, because today, folks, there's a statistic out there on you that are 25 to 35 that you'll trade jobs 5 times over the next 10 years, because you're looking for an opportunity, and you're looking for somebody that'll give you a path, number 1, for training, number 2, toward leadership, and number 3, toward success. And you want it faster than 7 years. So we've got to figure out how to make that work.
I'm a big believer in kind of standard operating procedures, and that selling is not part of it's an art, part of it's an aptitude and an attitude, but I think there's some fundamental skills that successful salespeople develop, and how they develop those. Some of them get really good formal training. I was fortunate enough, when I went to work for General Mills, there were 15 of us they hired into the region, and we spent 13 weeks in training in a classroom. And they weren't teaching us about flour and about cereal and about yogurt. They were teaching us they were official presentation skills and how to overcome objectives and how to close the deal. And it was not class book training, it was actually in practice. And it was really weird, because we had to give presentations, we had to do, role playing. But I tell you, it really equipped me for success in life. And I have not yet found a really solid training program. There's a little bit about negotiations, and there might be something good about communications. But what I've found successful is that and I actually had my sales team help develop this. We called it a Lean for Sales program. And when we first kicked this off with the sales team, They looked at lean as being, okay, that's a manufacturing, and so that's how you improve the production line, right? And we had our lean manager lead us through an exercise where it was, no, let's look at, well, how do you sell? How do you close a deal? Well, everyone's different. Every deal is different. There's an art. There's not a process. And Joe was great about it because he asked these are sales guys that have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And he asked me, he says, well, how do you start? Oh, well, first I identify an opportunity. Okay. And then what do you do? Well, then I go call on the guy. Okay. And then what do you do? Well, and then I have to give them a cross-reference, or I have to give them a quote or a proposal. Okay, and then what do you do? So he walked them through that and laid them out that, well, this is the steps in the process. Now everybody does a little bit differently, right? Glenn's style is going to be a little different than my style, but at the end of the day, there's 10 steps in the process. And then we had the team engaged in working to actually improve our ability to streamline that process. So instead of giving the distributor a quote on the 15th of July, and then maybe the 15th of August or the end of July, they go, oh, I wonder how we did on that. They actually got a weekly rhythm to where they had reports on those activities. David was talking about what are the activities. At the end of the day, the end result we're trying to drive is either volume or margin or profitability. But there's a lot of activities that have to happen in order to get to that end. So we had the team develop that, and they still use it today. They use this every week. They meet, they talk about the activities, they hold each other accountable. Michael was going to do this. Michael, did you do that? And Greg, you were going to do this. Greg, did you do that? And so we've developed this standard operating procedure that each salesperson is learning the best practices from each other. But they have basically the same process, even though they do approach it a little bit differently. They put their own art behind it.
Hello, Matt Foster with Lutron Electronics. And my question is, as OEM and distributor leaders in the industry, we agree we're solution providers. It's a very fast pace, adaptability. How do we do that in parallel, do internal management development and leadership, and then customer base at the same time, as we have impact and influence in the industry with those contractors?
Matt, I'm not sure I understand your question.
So if I'm trying to develop my internal team, Mayer Electric, at the same time, how do I educate my customer on these solutions at the fast pace of evolution of the industry right now?
Great question. Not sure I have a good answer. Anybody else want to start that one?
Well, I think technology is going to be the answer, and honestly, we have a whole department of people in, whether we call it e-commerce or digital marketing or social media, and I think our company does a pretty good job of using social media, using videos, using things to tell the solution story, but we're not very far along on that. And you look at what what Amazon does and what these other companies are able to do through social media. I'm baffled by it, and would love to actually hear the millennials, because you guys use technology a lot more. I don't understand what Twitter does, right? But boy, I mean, somebody won a $15 gift certificate for tweeting about the meeting, which was pretty cool. So I think there is something there, and maybe that's something I'd ask Glenn and the NAD to consider, if there is another committee on, what is digital marketing going to do for our industry, and how do we use best practices and come together to bring our industry up, because it's going to happen somehow, some way. I mean, people are going to use digital marketing and use that much more than print media, much more than watching commercials on TV. And it's all about that referral and making it convenient for when that customer wants to know something about a product. That's when he wants it. It's not when your salesperson happens to be sitting in front of him and showing him this cool widget, but he doesn't have any need for it today.
I think it's an excellent question. First of all, I think in today's fast-paced world, you got to use multiple means to try to get that accomplished. And I hate to say this, but hope that something sticks. So it might be social media. It might be in our organization. We just 2 weeks ago we have an annual trade show where we serve them some brats and burgers, and we have all the vendors come in and bring the latest products, and we hold them accountable. You're only allowed bringing new products because customers don't want to see what they saw the last 5 years. So we have a new products showcase from 40 different tabletop vendors. And we get a lot of traffic through. We had over 1,000 people through a couple weeks ago. So some of the older people like that method because that's what they've always done. The younger people, we're trying social media type of things. We're doing Twitter, we're doing Facebook, we're updating the websites, we're doing a blog, we're doing those type of things, and hoping that that message sticks. But the most important thing for us is that our people are versed on what's going on and what are the latest products, because we've tried to position ourselves, somebody talked about their company branding, we try to position ourselves as come to us when you got a question or you want to try to figure out how something's happening, because we've got the information. And if your salesperson doesn't have it, he has 4 subject matter experts behind him in various areas that he can bring in to help solve that problem. Your customers don't want product presentations anymore. When I first got into business 30 years ago, we went out and made product presentations and demos and so on. That doesn't happen much anymore. People don't have time for that. It's so fast-paced, they don't have time to sit through a product presentation. But they do want to know, do you have something, you may be the guy that has something for me to solve my issue. And that's what we've tried to position ourselves as. We've got the solutions, we're trained, let us know when you need us.
So Matt, that's a good question. It is a challenge. So what we've done at our organization is as we've continued to create more solutions or specialized services that we think our customers find value in, if they're important enough, we've created people in the organization that are responsible for kind of a specialist for those services or solutions. So we've got general account managers who go out and day in, day out, knock on people's door and service accounts. And then when they see an opportunity for a solution to be delivered, typically the first couple times they're going to bring that specialist with them that helps them understand how that process works, how to roll out that solution or service. And so at the same time the customer's being educated, our salesperson's being educated by our internal specialist. And so that way you can drive a similar process across the whole organization, because you got specific people assigned to some of those sort of solutions.
You know, just a couple points, and what we have to think about is, you know, our room today is represented by millennials and X and Y, but in the field, the customers that you call on, you got both. Some want it by paper, and some want it by this. Using the digital marketing is coming. It's going to come faster than the paper market ever did come. The fax machine is basically non-existent today. And that's how fast it's going to move. Now the question is, how do we adapt our businesses to that age of digital technology? And I'll tell you, David Goedecke, my son, he's a sales guy, pure sales guy. In fact, he's better than I am in terms of sales. But he took on a role at Mayer a year and a half ago that is in our IT group. And what he's doing is he's going out and seeing key customers, and he's doing process integration. He's trying to figure out what their moves are in the industry. What do they want from a technology standpoint? He then brings that back to our IT group. We build the model inside our ERP system. Then he goes back out and sells it and then implements it. It's unique. It's a differentiator in the marketplace. But one of the things that's the wave of the future. That's what's going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But you still have the baby boomers in the marketplace, project managers sitting on job sites, and they haven't touched that right there. They have that, but they don't know how to use it yet. So, but you still got to cater to both.
Some of my customers are reaching retirement age, actually a large number of them. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how people are handling transitioning, and then also a shortage of good workers coming into the trade.
I'll take this one first. I'm on a couple of committees addressing this particular issue. So we as an organization get involved in our trades organizations, whether that's IEC, whether that's NECA, or whether that's in our area, Associated Builders and Contractors, ABC. And we're on committees to address this issue right now, and we're getting involved with our customers, helping to drive that type of thing. So we've formed a group called Workforce Partnership Development that is getting out to the high school kids and talking about the trades and what the opportunities are. And this is not some dirty, sloppy job. There's people doing tech type of things in here and so on. So we've actually got an advocacy together to do that type of thing that we're getting involved with our customers and helping that and supporting it financially and supporting it by getting out to the schools and communicating that type of thing. You're correct. That's a huge issue, is the shortage of workforce, and it's a really bad issue in our area of Ohio right now. There's so much work and not enough people to do it. So we're spending a lot of time in advocacy right now because we kind of let that go for too long of a time. When the economy went down and people didn't need people, nobody dealt with it, and now all of a sudden everybody needs it. So I always say best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, second best time is today. It's time to plant that tree and build that resource. So we're doing what we can. It's still an issue. I agree with you. As far as the succession planning, I talk to a lot. I meet with all of our top contractors. I have a quarterly lunch with them, and we talk about this. At least half of the lunches I have, we talk about succession planning. And without naming names, I kind of share what others have done and how they've gone through the process. We have a business development organization that's near us. It's called Aileron, which is a resource for business people, and I turn a lot of those people toward them. They have people who will help you through that transition, and many of our contractors have recently done the transition or in the process of doing the transition, and a lot of them are using that organization to do it, because as a contractor, you kind of grew up through the business, and then all of a sudden you're 65 years old and you don't want to do it anymore, but you don't know how to get out of it, and we kind of help point them those directions, and that's tended to help some of those people. So if you have business development organizations in your area, I would point them in those directions.
So I'll address it from two points. One is from feedback that we've gotten from contractors that are really seeing the same effect of the baby boomers retiring, right? So you have this big mass of a population of this generation that, as they retire, coming behind them is a much, much smaller labor pool. And that labor pool has been brought up differently, been trained a little bit differently. And so it's not just a matter of there's not even enough bodies, much less willing and interested bodies to actually perform that. So most contractors that we talk to are really looking for ways to improve the productivity and efficiency on the job site. So if I can do a wire pull with one guy instead of 5, I've kind of solved that problem somewhat. So that's where we see a lot of our customers are doing that. On the other side, what we're seeing as well is that because there's this generation of 50-year-olds or so that are going to retire someday, there's this gap in talent that kids that are 20 and 30 are having to step into jobs that we would never have thought we would have until we were 40 or 50. And so that creates a huge opportunity for you, that if you're able as a leader to bridge that and accelerate that, you're interested in doing that, and you're willing, and you get the right leader, the mentors, the right coaching, and take this step on your own, the opportunities are going to be tremendous. I mean, significantly higher than they were when the 4 of us were much younger.